Hello and welcome to my first tutorial where I don't know what I'm doing. You can download the tutorial now as a PDF on my DeviantArt and Gumroad, so I'll leave the links for that below, but I thought I'd also do a little video for it where I can go into more detail. It is a pretty lengthy tutorial, but I think it needs to be for what it is, because it's teaching you to design a character like from start to finish. So there's a lot to learn. I couldn't really fit it all into the PDF, so I just got the key points in there, but I thought it would be nice to do a video and talk about it in more detail for anyone that kind of wants to go more into it and see how I actually did it. So I did keep this tutorial pretty simple, and I'd recommend just starting with one animal. You could do it with more than one, but I'd recommend just starting with one, and then you could possibly build up to using like 2 or 3 more. But yeah, start out pretty simple to begin with, just until you can kind of get an idea what you're doing and how it works. Also, I'd say do keep this kind of rooted to the real world, so choose like a real animal, not something made up. Character designs are kind of highly dependent on that, because although you can create something that's like random and original and it's never been seen before, it's still kind of important for it to have some kind of connection to the real world so that people will relate to it and it'll be more believable as well. I would also recommend choosing an animal that you actually really like you're really interested in. It's a lot easier if you do this purely because you might already know certain things about it and you would be interested in getting to know more about it, which obviously helps doing a character design, especially when it's something that's more about just the visual appeal of an animal. So your overall design will probably be more interesting as well. Okay, so I thought for this, instead of just talking about the tutorial in general, I'll explain how I came up with my idea, which I did cover a little bit in the PDF, but I can go into it in more detail in this video. So as a lot of you will already know, I really like fish. I don't know why, I always have been really into fish for some reason, and then I got obsessed with river monsters, so it kind of just stuck. And obviously I draw a lot of sharks as well, but I think a shark's pretty generic, so I wanted to try something different. So other than a shark, my other favourite fish is called an arapaima. They get absolutely massive, and they've got a really bony head, and when they're scared in the water they'll kind of like leap out of the water and headbutt whatever's in the way. So I just think they're really cool. So I did do quite a few studies on paper as well before I started doing them digitally, just to get a rough idea of the shape of them and kind of what the main features are. So I'd suggest doing the same thing. Find like various reference photos, sketch them up. Also try and find photos that show them in different angles and poses and stuff as well, just because then you'll learn how to draw the animal as a whole rather than just like from one side or one view. But I'd also suggest not doing too many, because you don't kind of want to get stuck in that way of drawing it. You just want to use it as inspiration. You don't want it to look exactly like that. You don't need to be able to draw like a perfect realistic version of it. You just need to understand like the basic features more than anything. Once you've done a few studies as well, I'd also suggest doing some research into the animal. Like I said, this helps if you are actually interested in it. So like, does the animal look a certain way for a certain reason? Is it a certain colour for a certain reason? Has it got specific defence mechanisms? It might only eat certain prey. It might catch its prey in a certain way as well. And also there might be certain things that stand out about its personality. There's so many things that you could find out about different animals. You could even use a different animal for your inspiration when it comes to your like character design's personality, and mix 2 animals that way. So you've got like a visual representation of one animal mixed with the personality of another one. That could make up for some interesting character designs, I think. I might actually try that myself next time. That's a good idea. So you can also use these studies and research to influence your ideas to start imagine what like the actual shape of the whole character might look like. I always started with the head for some reason and then kind of draw the body. Or you could just sketch out certain body parts that you think might be like a main feature. So in this case, the main thing that influenced me was the fact that the arapaima's got such a solid bony head. I kind of wanted to use that as the main inspiration for the whole design. So in this case, it was kind of like going in the right direction for me to start out with the head. So I did kind of like a little brainstorm just around the idea of a bony head. So like I came up with the words like, so like chunky and big and bulky, and you know, bullies used to call people a bonehead, and it just meant that you were stupid. When I came onto that idea, I thought it'd be really cool to have a character that kind of like looked really mean and aggressive, but kind of like clumsy and stupid at the same time. So when I started sketching heads, I actually really liked the way some of the heads looked without eyes, and I thought that kind of added to the whole like stupid part, but it also kind of makes it creepier as well that he hasn't got eyes. And when I was thinking about him looking a bit clumsy, I thought it'd be cool to give him a really like big bulky body, just so that he looks a bit like big and dumb, I guess. So that's why I kept like his arms really low to the ground as well. I actually used a gorilla for the inspiration for his body, because even though like gorillas and monkeys are pretty smart, I always think they look really clumsy, like the way that they walk and the way that they drag their knuckles on the ground. So I thought their body shape would work really well with the idea for the head that I'd already got. So once you kind of have an idea of what the body shape looks like, just draw out a few rough versions. I mean, when I drew mine out, I wasn't really using much reference. I just kept them like little thumbnails, and it wasn't really till I'd actually decided on one of the ideas for a body shape that I really turned it into an actual body rather than just like a random scribble. But one thing that's really important with every part of this when you're developing an idea is to always do like plenty of ideas. So I didn't just sketch one body out, I sketched a few out until I'd decided on something, and I could have sketched a lot more out, and it was same with the heads as well. I sketched quite a lot of those out because I actually sketched them out that I didn't include in this video. Even if you end up going back to the first idea, there might be something you can use from one of your other ideas. It's really important to like explore and get as many ideas out as you can. I kept it really rough until this stage, but once I'd actually picked the body, I kind of blew it up, made it bigger. I placed the head where it needed to go, and then started to like refine the details on the body, and then drew like a more defined sketch over the top. So this is where you can start to think about the character's features as well. So if you go back to your research, is there anything you could use to add some weird elements onto your character? Like it could be the skin patterning, it could have protective body parts for its defense mechanisms. Or maybe it's like a predator and it's got like certain features that it uses to attack its prey with. So once you've got like a full body version of your character kind of sketched out, even if it's just rough, a really good idea now is to create like a solid black version, so like a silhouette of your character. This helps to make sure that your character is recognisable and it's original. So like if you create this silhouette of your character, does it look the way you intended it to? Does it kind of, you know, if it's supposed to look creepy, does it look creepy, or does it look cute when it's silhouetted? Because if it looks cute when it's silhouetted, chances are when it's finished it's not going to look as creepy as you wanted it to. So creating a silhouette of your character is really important thing to do. Also as well, before you get too far into your character, make sure you flip it horizontally just so you can see any mistakes. I never used to do this. It's something I probably started doing a year ago, and it's ridiculous how much of a difference it makes, because the amount of times I draw like characters and stuff and the faces are so slanted when I flip them. So you're going to take one thing away from this tutorial, it's that please flip your images because you'll learn so much from it. Okay, so now you should have like a rough version of your full body character and also know what it looks like silhouetted. This is where you can kind of do what you want with your character. You can finish it however you want to. Obviously you might be a traditional artist, so you might not get much from how I finish mine, but I'll talk through it very quickly, although I've shared a lot of this on my blog. But I'll just quickly go over how I do it. I always start with the line work. I kind of make my sketch a bit more transparent. So I just use like a solid tapered brush. I used to line work all my stuff in Photoshop, but nowadays I never do that anymore. I always use Procreate, or if I'm not using that and I'm doing it on my Mac, I use Clip Studio Paint, which is amazing, especially for the price. It's so good for your line work. So one thing you can do if you are going to do that, the way I do it, make sure that you vary your line weights. So the parts of the character where the light is hitting the most, your lines should be thinner, and then the parts of your character that are in shadow more than anything should be thicker. I mean, you can keep your lines the same size, but this really helps to add some depth to your character and make it look like it's got some weight to it. Now when it comes to colours, I guess you could do it one of two ways that I can think of. So I personally use the colours of the Arapaima scales for my colour palette, but I colour picked it from a photo that I'd found, so it did end up being a bit off, but that kind of made it more interesting at the same time. But another thing you could do is, again, think back to your character and how it lives. Like, you know, if it lives in a certain environment, it's kind of like how real animals are. So if something lives in like a rainforest, for example, they're usually really bright, like saturated colours. But say if it lived in like a cave or something, like a bat does, they're usually really dark, dull colours because they're in the dark all the time. It's worth thinking about things like that as well for your colour choice. Or other than that, something else I do is I have a Pinterest board. Anything that catches my eye, I'll just add it to my own board just for colour reference, and I always like kind of come back to those and use those. And then pretty much after that, I just added shading and light into this. I didn't go over the top with this one and add like loads of crazy effects and stuff. Just with it being a tutorial, I wanted to keep it simple. But yeah, I hope this helped at least one person. I'll leave the links below for the download if you want to download the PDF as well. The idea that I wanted is that you can kind of like go through the PDF and listen to this video at the same time and kind of have like a running commentary of it. But yeah, let me know what you think, and I am going to do another tutorial soon as well, going over how I actually draw ideas up from a reference photo. Hopefully that will be of use to people as well. But yeah, thank you for watching.